Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Less Stress, More Peace and Happiness Summit. I am so excited that you've decided to join us, and you are going to be in for a great surprise. We have such a great lineup of people and so many different topics. I think you're really going to be served well. You're going to learn strategies and practices that you can do easily from home, where you can reduce your stress and overwhelm, you can increase your calm and your focus, and you can just develop a peaceful state of mind. So that's what this summit is all about. I'm super excited today to be interviewing Brandee Safran, and I am going to show you right now what she's all about. So Brandee Safran is a certified transformational coach and yoga therapist for women who want to boldly take full ownership of their health, freedom, and joy, so they create a legacy that they are proud of. She supports women to believe in themselves, to tune into their body's wisdom, and to promote healing and take inspired action to bring their goals to life. Brandee uses life's journey as a vehicle for healing. Embarking on the spiritual path at the age of 16, Brandee's been committed to investigating yoga's qualities of healing through life's challenges. She states that contractions are her expertise, and learning to expand from their compression forces are the very gifts that the practice of healing through yoga offers. She has pioneered many programs such as Yoga for Digestive Health, Yoga for the Pelvic Floor, Women's School of Ecstatic Awakening, and she leads workshops in recovery. She's passionate about sacred community and leads a sacred sisterhood called Inspired Wise Women Leadership. Please welcome with me, Brandee Safran.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I'm really, really excited to talk to you. So I like to start with, if you don't mind, I love to start with people's story. I like to find out what it is that brought you to where you are now, how you found yourself in this work. And especially starting at the age of 16, that's really interesting.
Yeah. First of all, I love the title of your summit, and I love this tag that we have on the bottom: less stress, more peace and happiness. So just going to tune into that energy of a little bit about my story, a little about who I am. So I started my journey after spending approximately 2 years in and out of the hospital from the age of 14 to 16. I have Crohn's disease. So Crohn's disease, if people don't know what that is, it's an inflammatory bowel disease, and it's an autoimmune condition. And so with most autoimmune conditions, there's actually, they don't know how it's caused, and they also don't know how to cure it. So that's autoimmunity. When I left the hospital, the doctor was like, you cannot have stress. So like your title, less stress, without really how to manage that. He's just like, you are so weak. You really have to learn how not to let any stress into your life.
Oh, wow.
Which, at the age of 16, of course, there's a lot of pressure, or we don't even know. And especially I was very, very weak. And luckily I was introduced to meditation at the age of 16, and I fell in love with the practice. And that is the beginning journey to healing my body and really taking care of that, not letting stress be a factor of why I can't achieve peace and happiness.
That's really interesting. And I can't imagine being that young and being told that, because there's just so much stress around us all the time, and especially not being given tools. So that's it's really beautiful. Who introduced you to the meditation at that point?
So I was really blessed. One of my best friend's mother lived in India in an ashram, and she was visiting for the summer. So she introduced me to meditation. And the first time that I meditated, I was like, oh no, I had been doing this definitely in a past life. This is definitely part of me. And it was like home to my soul.
Wow.
And it was the first time that I learned how to slow down the monkey mind, slow down the thinking. Like before that moment, I really truly believed that whatever was going on in my thought processes was 100% real. And at that point, at the age of 16, I was like, oh no, I could really have some type of authority over the thought processes in my mind. and maintain calmness in my body.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, that was a blessing, wasn't it?
It definitely was. Yes.
So the work you do then now is, I know you do yoga, but you also specialize in transformational work with women particularly. And so tell us a little bit about what that looks like. And I'm actually going to remove I'm going to put the title of your talk up, and I am going to get in the background and let you have the stage.
Ooh, thank you. Center stage. So I am passionate about the wisdom of tuning within. I believe that just like me at the age of 16, I spent so much time in my thinking mind, so much time just thinking like that is my reality and my only reality, and completely neglecting my body. Especially for me, living with chronic illness, I left my body. I lived in so much pain. It was too painful to actually be in my body.
Wow.
So my healing journey is really a journey of coming home and building trust with my body. And so, for the listeners, just think about how much actually time do you spend tuning into your mind, feeding your mind, studying. I mean, I'm looking at Janine with her massive bookcase and my bookcase behind me. Like, how much time are we just absorbing information, instead of actually tuning into the information that our body is talking? Our body is constantly speaking to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend not to tune into the messages of the body and trust more the messages of the mind. So, listeners, just take a moment and think to yourself, like, if there's stress coming, if you're nervous, like, are you tuning into that message? If an environment doesn't feel safe, what are your tools that you're using? And what are your practices to build that resiliency and that connection to the wisdom of what's going on for you internally, not only externally and not only in between your ears, but everything below as well.
Exactly. And yeah, that's beautiful that you said that. And it is an innate wisdom that we are born with. And, I just think it's not nurtured. And so people they're not aware that they have that inner wisdom, and they even become aware, like you're telling us that it's there. How would you suggest, like, how do you go about tuning in and tapping in? What does that feel like? How do you know that you're tapping into that inner wisdom, I guess?
So there's so much that I would love to share with your audience. So one of the things that I do want to share is that, we are wired for connection as human beings, just like we are now in conversation. And thank you so much for this summit and just sharing so much wisdom on this summit, so many great speakers. And we are wired to learn, and we are wired to connect to ourselves, and we are wired to connect to each other, and wired to connect to our environment. And this is actually the role of the nervous system. So the role of the nervous system is, like Janine's title, calm. I think it was happiness. What was the name of the title again, if you don't mind repeating it? Finding.
So yeah, less stress, more peace and happiness. How to reduce stress and overwhelm, create calm and focus, and develop a peaceful state of being.
There you go. So
kind of a
title, just in that title, we have different states of the nervous system. So the calmness and the less stress and that peacefulness and that focus comes only when we are in a state of self-regulation, when we are in the state of really allowing ourselves to be present with our experience and with each other. When we are in a state of stress and overwhelm, we are actually disconnecting from a state of regularity, of neutrality, and we are not actually completely open to receive information and connect to each other. And then there's also another state of the nervous system where we actually even completely check out, which I did when I was younger. I had so much pain, I just numbed out, checked out, dissociated. And those are three different states that were constantly flowing in throughout our day. But we definitely don't want to be stuck in that stress, overwhelm, anxious or numbed out, we always want to learn how to come back to that state of just calm, peace, and focus. And the way that I teach my clients, the most basic thing is really lying down on the floor on a daily basis and letting your body be held by the earth and letting yourself rest. With it, we're not going to sleep, but just taking a few minutes. Like, how does it feel to touch the earth and be held? How does it feel to breathe? What is the body feeling? And start that body talk conversation.
Wow. So it's okay then to do that indoors. You don't have to be actually on the earth. You could just lay down in your home and
anywhere. I would say, like,
where you can lay down outside.
You could do it anywhere. It really depends. You could do it even if, somebody is, in a wheelchair. You could do this. Anyone could do this. Preferably, I would say to lie actually on a yoga mat on the floor inside the house or outside the house. Somewhere outside that's not your bed, because your bed has a whole different energy to a place of grounding.
Right. I understand that. Right. The bed's associated with sleep or sex, so not necessarily listening to the body and relaxing. So is it then where you know yourself when you reach that place where you can feel the calm coming over you and you can feel the sense of rest, and then you're beginning to tap into that inner wisdom?
Yeah. Or you could also say, oh my God, I'm really stressed out and my body's absorbing this. Okay. So it's not necessarily right away to change, but get to understand where do you spend most of your time, and then starting to connect with that, and then figuring out ways, like I'll work with people figuring out ways to get really calm and present in their body. But there's nothing wrong about being anxious. There's nothing wrong about being overwhelmed. We all experience that. So not to shame yourself over that. These are all natural states, but learning how to come back down to that state of calm is essential for our health and well-being.
I love that. I love that. This is, as a little aside too, it's really interesting to me because when reaching out to people for the summit, and I had an idea in my mind what my subtopics would be, and regardless of the person or the subtopic, everyone seems to be coming back to the vagus nerve and the nervous system, regardless of the topic. So it's really been interesting to me. I honestly, and I've studied natural wellness for over 30 years, 34 years, I think. And it's just, this is kind of new to me. So I love that I'm learning something with everyone that I speak with.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, I mean, it's newer. I think it's in 1994 that Stephen Porges wrote the polyvagal theory, that all of this started to come out as the information.
Okay. Interesting. So do you have an example for us, a story you could share, obviously without the name, but just a client success, so we can kind of really get a visual of what that transformation looks like?
100%. I have lots of stories.
Yeah.
Really, really grateful for my clients and, building the relationships that I have with them with success. So one story that I'll share is working with someone after a bilateral mastectomy, and that went wrong. So there was a lot of pain and trauma in the chest area, and numbness, and actually extreme pain, which caused the body to be in shutdown mode, complete shutdown mode, and fear. And when we started to work together, even breathing was painful. Wow. And just slowly, through building a relationship of trust and my client building a relationship back to her body, this woman is like still, so that we started to work together, I would say maybe 10 years ago at least. Wow. And we're still working together weekly, and she's built strength, and she's gone traveling, and she's an author and has opened up a business, and
that's wonderful.
The full spectrum of sensation and confidence in her body.
Beautiful. I love that. So I do have a question. That kind of leads into another question I had about people who are dealing with chronic illness. Do you have suggestions for them, what this work might look like, and how do you begin when you're dealing with something that's chronic and that heavy?
Yeah, definitely. So I live with chronic illness because Crohn's is something that will never go away. So I understand you if you're in that situation, and everybody's diseases are different, everybody's illnesses are different, and one to really learn to understand the season of your disease, the cycle of your disease, the cycle of your energy, and tuning in not only to the symptoms, but also possibly what's underneath the symptoms. If you're having resistance underneath the symptoms, I'll share for me personally, for a long time, I was just like very much identified with having Crohn's. And I was very, at times fearful, like, well, I can't do this because I won't have enough energy to get through my day. And that limiting belief and already limiting myself, I didn't realize how I was implying through my mindset that this was not possible for me.
Exactly.
So I would be very also careful, like if you are struggling with your health, are you already having a preconceived notion of what is possible for you, and how is that actually affecting of what you are capable and what you want to be achieving in your life?
Right. I think I love what you said about identifying with the disease, or identifying yourself as having the disease. And I hear people a lot of times say my diabetes or my asthma, where they're literally taking it in their languaging too. And so is part of what you're talking about, tuning into the body and just becoming more aware, and the breath work and the rest and these steps are all part of coming to a place where you're not identifying as the disease, but it's separate from you. You deal with it, but it's not. It's your limiting mindset is separate, right? Is that? I don't know if I'm making myself clear,
Right.
but
Well, so yeah, I mean, everything I do is very holistic, and for me personally, I spent, I would say over 20 years, 25 years, really in the somatic practice of yoga therapy and meditation. And then as I progressed, I was like, oh, I want to help my clients even more. And I became a life coach. So that was in 2014. And then I also I did a lot of leadership training, and I coach leadership work today, for the reason that there were still, for me, limitations on how I saw myself. So I believe that, yes, there is the wisdom of the body, but there's also the way that we are perceiving ourselves and patterns, and based on our past trauma, how are we still possibly playing out defensively or protectively that is no longer serving us? So slowly, that's the transformation process. So we look at everything, and then once we're safe and steady, we take another step forward.
I love that. So yeah, it is a journey then. Yeah. So it's becoming aware and doing the practices and just learning as you go and improving all the time and opening up that mindset to possibilities. This is I'm hearing, so correct me if you want to, but I think it's really interesting, and like I said, especially tying in the nervous system. So are you using the nervous system and as kind of a guidance that you're, when you're feeling stressed, you're off track, and when you're feeling more calm, you're on track? Can you use it as a guiding system like that?
100%. And also to know yourself, like we all have our habits, right? So some people, that their go-to is anger. Some people, their go-to is numbing out. What is your go-to? Okay, identify it. Be aware of it. Just awareness is already huge. And then, okay, so here I am. What caused that? What are the triggers? What are the steps to bring myself out? So it's definitely a journey. And, the nervous system is not only these three states, it's our body's wisdom constantly taking in information and analyzing that information in our environment, in our relationship with us, and the environment within our organs, feeding the information up to our brain. And then our brain responds from the messages of the body.
Wow. And so everyone's journey is different then and very personal. And so when you said like, what's my go-to? I don't even know that I know. I would have to really think about that. Probably with me, it's shutting down and withdrawing and just, I don't like confrontation. I want everybody to get along. And so when I'm uncomfortable, I just go within and retreat. So that's probably not healthy either.
Right. So that's actually, so let's just look at it that as healthy or not healthy. It's neither. It is pattern. And, as long as we know what your pattern is, then we get to look at it. So there's nothing wrong. Like I said, we all go through these spectrums. None of us is 100% calm. Life isn't like that. You're going for a run, you're going to be kicking up into the sympathetic mode, fight or flight. You need that fuel. You need that energy. But if you're staying there for a long period of time, is where it gets unhealthy, and that it affects the health of our well-being and the health of our relationships. So it really depends. So in your shutdown mode, is that playing out in your relationship? Is it physically playing out in your health? Is it physically playing out in your relationships as well? Like there's so much to look at.
Right.
We get to, get curious and say, okay, why and where did it come from? And then to acknowledge the journey, because the whole beauty of this is the journey.
Exactly. So I think you pretty much described where we've been, and personally in my life, the last few years have been really stressful for a lot of reasons, But on top of that, I think I've seen, we used to have a custom print and laser shop, and just the customers and the vibe in there, it was always so much fun. But after COVID, people are different, and I don't think it's just me that feels that way. And I don't know if it's the sustained isolation and fear and all of that. Do you see a difference? I feel like people feel broken and disconnected. You mentioned we're wired for connection. I think disconnect is a huge thing right now. So do you have anything that you might say along those lines about, as a whole, how people can recover? Is it about, finding someone to connect with or a purpose to connect with? What do you think about that? Is it just me? I just feel like I see a difference in people. And this is actually the reason I'm doing the summit, is because I want people to have the tools to get back to purpose and joy and connection, and just find some purpose and joy. So
yeah, beautiful. And I for sure there's a shift globally after the pandemic and where we are at. And I guess my point of view and where I stand with the work that I do in the world, it's one human being at a time. Like it's responsible for me providing that safe space for you to be held and seen. And then I get to transmit my knowledge to my students, so they get to be the providers for others. And in my community, it's a grounded, safe, sacred space that all are invited. And then we get to continue to elevate the vibration from the ground up, starting with the wisdom of the body, our own personal journey.
That is so beautifully said. I love that. And I think that's exactly what this whole thing is about. And we do have such a great lineup of people that I hope it really does make a great impact, one at a time. So I've really, really enjoyed, excuse me, the chat with you. I wonder if there's like a simple action step that you can give listeners, something they can easily do at home. I know you mentioned just laying on the floor, and trying to access, maybe combine with breath work, but what would you suggest as a simple action step to leave people with?
So I'll leave two. So the first action step was lying on the floor and asking your body, after a minute or two of getting really comfortable, ask your body, how is it feeling? What does it need from you? And don't answer from your mind, answer from your body. And put on a timer or put on some gentle music for at least 5 minutes. So tune out and tune in. So that's one action step. And then my second action step would be to get really curious, like you did, Janine. What's your natural state when you're ungrounded, when you're not in that state of calm? What is your natural state? And become aware of it. And that is already a huge insight of where do you tend to go when you are dysregulated in your nervous system.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, this has been so interesting to me, and I really, really appreciate your time. I know that you have a free gift for listeners, and would you like to explain that to us?
Yes, I'd love to. So the name of my gift is Body, Mind, Heart Reset. And you'll get 3 days of practices with me. So one day will be a gentle yoga practice. One day will be mindset, just really tuning into calming the mind and restorative meditation. And the last one about the heart is about really understanding the fundamentals of self-compassion.
That's beautiful. So people can access this free gift and go a step further with what we've been talking about.
Yes,
so that's really generous, and we will we'll provide a link to that for everyone, so you can connect with Brandee. And yeah, I think this has been really interesting, and I really, really appreciate your time, and I honor you and your work. Thank you so much.
It is an honor, and thank you for inviting me. And feel free to reach out also through Instagram and ask me questions. If there's any questions coming up for you, I'd love to engage with my audience and support you guys so that we get to really create an impact of calm in the world.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Too.
Bye-bye.